Round 3 of the URC is going to give us a clear indication of the trajectory of many teams' seasons. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. We've got some decent clashes in the URC this week. Some of the teams that were right there at the top last year meeting each other. And if we start with the Friday games, so the first game on Friday is Glasgow Warriors versus the DHL Stormers. This is at Scotstoun Stadium. And this is 7th versus 1st. So Stormers are the only team who have maximum points so far in the league. Glasgow started really well with that home win against Leinster and, really looked impressive in that one. But then they lost against Connacht last week. So, a win and a loss, not too bad to start off. But I feel like, Glasgow, they've been that team that have been thereabouts, that have got in there and disrupted kind of the Irish / South African dominance of the URC. They're the outsider that's been in there getting into knockouts and being high up the table as well. But I feel if they've ambitions really to take that next step to push to actually win titles, this is the kind of game that they really need to target to win. But Stormers are a fantastic team. Normally the team is has plenty of Springboks in it, but even beyond that, the depth that they have is really impressive. They're kind of up there, I'd say, with Leinster in terms of when they switch out players, that the quality doesn't drop that much. So it's going to be a really tough game for Glasgow, but because of the fact that this is probably a game that they targeted early on in the season to say, marked it in the calendar. This is the one we're going to go for to try and win. I feel like, Warriors might actually pull off a win in this one. The other Friday game then is Ospreys versus the Sharks. So this is at Twickenham Stoop. So kind of interesting there that, Ospreys have moved one of their few home games outside of Wales. I know a lot of the Welsh fans complain about the fact that there aren't that many home games. There's only, nine home games a season, which, when you think about it, the season seems to run for, I don't know how many months it actually runs for. It feels like 8 or 9 months. So it's only one home game a month on average, if you don't include Europe. And generally Ospreys haven't gone that far in Europe recently, so there aren't that many European home games either for them. But I can see the reason why they would do this, because Sharks move it to London. There's plenty of South Africans there. It's going to draw a really big crowd, and just the novelty of it as well, that it's a URC game being played in London as well. I think that's going to really help them out financially there. And, we know all the struggles that the Welsh regions are going through. So I'm certainly not going to lambast them for doing that. It's a novel concept, and hopefully it works out for them in terms of financially. It might work against them. Excuse me. It might feel like home game for the Sharks, but we'll have to see on that. But this is Ospreys in 9th versus the Sharks in 15th. So Ospreys, mixed fortunes for them really, in the opening couple of rounds. First of all, they lose in the opening round, but then they have a narrow win last week against Zebre. It was 3-point winning margin for them, but at least they got that win on the board. And then, the Sharks, they've lost both of their opening games, but there were two tough games to start with as well, because the first up they had Munster in Thomond Park, and then Leinster at the RDS. So not many teams are going to come away with wins from either of those locations this year. So this is one that they might feel, given that it's probably going to be a heavily a big Safa crowd at this one, that you might actually feel more like a home game, as I said, and they might actually feel that they've got a decent chance of winning. So I think probably Sharks are gonna nick that one. Into the Saturday games then, the early game is Zebre versus the Bulls. So Zebre, they've lost to Ulster in the opening round and then to Ospreys last week, but there's only been a few points in it in both of those games, and you feel like a win's going to come for them at some point, but against the Bulls, I don't think that's actually going to happen for them. Now the Bulls, they started with really good win against Scarlets, right? They just absolutely thumped the Scarlets, and then how did they go? I have to actually check how they went last week. I know they lost, but who did they lose against is the question. Oh yeah, it was Ulster. Yeah, they lost to Ulster by 7 points. And Ulster were, I would say, fairly comfortable in the game. But this one, I don't think this is going to be Zebre's first win in over a season. I think the Bulls are probably going to take this one. But Zebre, they're getting more and more competitive, and that win is going to come sometime, we hope, but probably not this weekend. Next then, we have Leinster versus Edinburgh. So this is 11th versus 4th. So Edinburgh, 2 wins on the trot, not by huge margins. Like, they beat the Dragons first up, and then who was it they beat last week? Why do I forget who teams beat last week? And I remember who they beat they beat the Lions by 1 point. Yeah. So yeah, it's 2 wins from 2 from them. Leinster, just 1 from 2 for them. They're going to want to put that, on the positive side. And, it's at the RDS. So I think Leinster are probably gonna take the win in this one. It might be, Edinburgh, we saw, being fairly competitive at the start of last season as well. And it looks like they've done the same here. But Leinster, they want to get a second win on the board and not have to worry about trying to find form. They want to just get there with another win. So I think Leinster are going to pull out the win on this one. Then we have an all Welsh derby next. So it is the Scarlets versus Cardiff Rugby. Scarlets sitting 16th to the table. They got absolutely destroyed against the Bulls in the opening round, and then a heavy defeat away to the Stormers as well in the second round. So they'll be happy to get back to Parky Scarlets, and familiar opposition as well in Cardiff. Cardiff, they've had a mixed bag themselves. Opening round, they lost at home to Benetton by I think a point, and then they beat Dragons last weekend as well. So Cardiff probably will look at how the Scarlets have started the season and think that fancy themselves for the win here. But Scarlets, they got to get off the board at some point, because otherwise it might be them that we're worrying about when they're going to get the first win of the season rather than Zebre at this rate. Next then we have the final. No, it's not not the final Saturday one. We actually have another Saturday one, but the final 2 Saturday ones, I guess. So got Munster versus Dragons, so it's 5th versus 14th. Munster, opened really well. I think it was they beat the Sharks in the first round. Then they drew against Benetton last week, and actually last minute try and conversion as well to get them that draw. And that one, Dragons have been unlucky. They had a close loss in the first round at home to Edinburgh. Then they lost again in a close game against Cardiff. But I don't think that this is a hunting ground for them. Musgrave Park. It's good to see it down in Cork, by the way. Munster. I think it's nice that Munster moved the games around, because the other provinces don't really do it. Now they do have the fact that they've got Limerick as the home base, and then Cork is a larger city, as their second home as it were. So that works in their favour in terms of moving games, but it's still nice to see it happening. But yeah, I don't see Dragons, whether it's in Thomond Park or Musgrave Park, pulling off a win against a Munster team who, despite that, a little bit of a struggle last week, have looked decent so far. So yeah, I think it's going to be a Munster win in that one. The next one then is an Irish derby. And this is Connacht versus Ulster, second versus third. So both these teams have, won their first two matches. Connacht, again, sometimes I just forget what happened in one of the rounds and not the other. So Connacht, they beat Ospreys, first up. And then they beat who did they beat last week then? Why am I forgetting all of this? Beat the Warriors, They beat the Warriors, high-flying Warriors last week, so that was a great win for them. Ulster just scraped home away to Zebre in the first round, at least I remember that one, and then they beat the Bulls last week as well. So, as I said, 2 from 2 for both of these teams, but as I say, in American sports, somebody's always going to go in this one. And, Ulster have actually, maybe my memory is playing tricks on me, but I think Ulster have actually done pretty well in the sports ground in recent years. But I feel like Connacht might actually pull off the win in that one. And then the final one, then the Sunday game. So I don't know why we have we've got a couple of Friday games, which is nice, but then we have a ton of Saturday games and only one Sunday game. I'd like to see them spreading the games out a little bit more, because I want to watch as many of them. I'm being greedy, but I want to watch as many of these games live as I can. But yeah, Sunday game is Benetton versus the Lions. So Benetton, they've done really well so far. That close win away to Cardiff, and then that draw almost win against Munster today. They were almost a team that were 2 from 2 as well. The Lions haven't won so far this season, but both losses that they had have been fairly close. So they've got to be feeling like a win's got to come for them pretty soon, because against the Stormers look like they might actually pull off a win in that one, but it didn't happen for them, and the same last week as well. So, but in this one, I think Benetton at home, I think Benetton are just going to have the edge in Stadio Monigo, right? So I think they're going to go another win. So if they do win that as well, it means that they're going to be right up there in the mix, because you have Connacht and Ulster. One of them is going to lose, or even if they're both draw, Benetton have a chance then to go above at least one of them, and possibly both if there's a draw in that game as well. And given that we have some other teams, Edinburgh away to Leinster as well, and we have the Warriors and Stormers playing each other too. It means that there's a good chance that Benetton win that game. They're probably going to be up there in the top 4 or 5 in the league. Now, whether they can sustain that will be another thing. But it's, again, as I said in the intro, it's this round I think is going to show us where trajectory of teams are going. Those that come out of this round still without a victory are will certainly be looking like they're going to struggle for the rest of the season. Those who come out of it where they're in that kind of top pack of maybe 6 teams will feel confidence growing that this could be a season where it's going to go well for them, and that just is kind of thing that just snowballs, right? Confidence and kind of a lack of confidence as well just kind of is that kind of feedback loop, right? Either positive or negative, that really affects teams. And it's games like this weekend's games that really kick stuff like that off. So I think it's an exciting weekend of rugby. I'm going to try, as I said, watch as much of it I can, but I am in work all weekend, which means that I'll be able to watch the games that are on kind of later, like the 7 o'clock kickoffs or wherever, or yes, 7:30 or wherever kind of things. And maybe the games at 5. We'll have to see about that. But I'm planning at least to cover a few of the games this weekend. Normally I would cover Leinster, but I don't think I'm going to be able to watch that because I will basically be finishing work as the game is kicking off and I won't get home for an hour. So that one is kind of off. So just thinking off the top of my head, I'll probably cover Glasgow versus Stormers. Then on the Saturday, it's probably going to be Munster Dragons because, I'd rather watch an Irish province when I have the chance. There's also, though, Connacht versus Ulster that day as well. So probably covered those. And then the Sunday game, Benetton versus Lions, we'll cover that as well. So, we will have a decent spread of teams over the weekend. Now, whether I can get to see all of the games and actually do videos on them will be another thing because, I think with a lot of people, there's kind of maybe a little bit of fatigue with rugby that's set in after the Rugby World Cup, which is kind of natural. But, I'll see how it go. I want to watch the games, and if I do watch the games, I will cover them. But whether I do any individual reviews or not, we will still have the main review on Monday or Tuesday. It was late this week because basically I recorded it first on Tuesday, and then I realized I recorded that and I recorded one for the Rugby World Cup as well, my final thoughts on it. And I was kind of in a rush to get them done. So I didn't do my audio check that I normally do. And then when I realized after trying to do my editing, I realized then that it sounded like I was underwater for both of those videos. So I had to scrap them. Then I had to record them again last night, which is Wednesday. And then it was kind of late by the time I was able to get the Rugby World Cup one up, but it was kind of late by the time I got the URC one done, which meant that I had to put it live this morning because, I was just too tired to stay up so late to actually, because you got to put it up and then you got to do a thumbnail and you got, you don't need to hear all the details, but there's a lot of work after you've even got the video ready to actually get it ready to go live. And then I didn't want to have two videos going up at the same time, kind of clashing with each other either. Especially when it says a week where people maybe have a little bit of fatigue, and I'm seeing kind of numbers drop from, what would normally be maybe, 100 or hundreds of views to kind of tens of views. So I have to be cognizant of that. But all of that said, what I was trying to get at was hopefully no issues next week, and the main review will be out on Monday or Tuesday, and we'll try and get back to kind of a regular schedule with when our videos are going up. It might take a few weeks to get into the groove, and it's probably going to take a few weeks for some of the regulars to come back, onto the channel to watch videos, but that's fine. Listen, whenever people are ready to watch the videos, I'm going to be putting them out, so they're going to be up there anyway for you to watch. But hopefully you enjoyed this one, and hopefully you continue to enjoy them in the future.